difficult thing to put all the pieces together, not knowing what's going to happen in the future.
But there's annual maintenance of that beach. If the revetment is not constructed, there's annual maintenance of that beach in front of the new seawall, right?
So I can speak to phase one, which I believe is the intent for phase two. Once we excavated all the material in front of the steel sheet piles and placed the armor stone, that material was reused on site, spread back over the armor stone. We took a survey of that. That's the condition we have to meet each
Right.
May. And we've done that for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
We're actually not in the public hearing portion of it, so are you satisfied with what you've heard?
Yeah, so as long as there's some maintenance and there's something there that keeps the kind of system in place.
Yeah.
There's a motion in a second.
I will maintain the motion as stated.
And I can accept it, I understand. Accept the
Okay.
motion as-
No, thank you. It was important to clarify that. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, then I think you need to do the roll call.
The roll call. Mr. Sahajian.
Abstain.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Vice Chair Koya.
Yes.
Ms. Colley.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon.
Yes.
Ms. Montanaro.
Yes.
Chair Cervenka.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous except for one abstention.
Okay, so now we will open the public hearing back up, and we'll hear from the applicant on the application in general and specifically the variance criteria.
But no need to
Repeat.
what you've already said. So if you got anything new.
Okay, well, I just want to, I want to note for the record, our position is also discussed in our letter of September 10th, 2019, which was in response to comments from Save the Bay. But it is our contention that a variance, a setback variance, is not necessary, mainly because this is a water-dependent structure. There's a specific exclusion for the setback for requirements for something that's part of an approved alteration involving a water-dependent activity or structure. And we're all referring to this as a seawall, and a seawall is a water-dependent structure. So there's no way we can do it. So our point, first of all, is that we're not required to seek the variance. Nevertheless, out of an abundance of caution, it was advertised, and I think I'll ask Mr. St. John just to come up and explain to you if there is any way it could be built, accomplishing this in any other location past the setback.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Richard St. Jean, RICHARD, ST.JEAN. I'm a licensed engineer. I designed along with Mr. Fairbanks, the improvements to Beach Road for erosion control.
And with particular, you're talking about phase one, is that correct?
Both phase one and phase two.
Okay. Now, with connection with phase two, approximately how far back is the sheet pile wall from the coastal feature?
Varies probably around 80 feet or so.
Okay. And if you were required to have it outside of the setbacks, 200 feet back, would it be able to be built there and satisfy its purpose of public safety protection?
No, it would be on the other side of the road, so. Why built it?
I don't know what more to add, so unless you have any questions.
I'm curious as to how you think the application satisfies the first criterion of the variance, that the proposed alteration conforms with applicable goals and policies of the CRMP.
Well, I think you've heard it from staff that the fact is that although your goals are to protect type 1 waters, and we've had this discussion before too, although this is maybe type 1 waters, it's not a type 1 shoreline. It's already a hardened, fortified shoreline. Even before phase one, between the wooden pilings of the ocean mist to Mary Carpenter's Wall, which existed in some form or another prior to the passage of the initial CRMC enabling legislation, to the Matunic Beach Trailer Park. This area of the coast is not a type 1 coast. And in order to, that's why, as we said, we think it's actually the more stringent special exception criteria, which you've already dealt with as far as the public health and safety, that we need to do that. And although your goals are to protect the type 1 waters, you also have a broader goal. And actually, one of them that does play in particularly is with the public access. That is part of your goals and policies. And if you look at what we've done here overall, which is taken a private beach, everything landward of the high tide line was a private beach with Mary Carpenter's. We've taken a private beach and acquired it with public funds, and we're using it to protect public infrastructure, and with the placement of the easement on it, turn it into a public area. So we're actually providing more public area. So I think when you look at your goals and policies, you have to weigh them. And I think that may outweigh the technical thing of saying, how does this enhance type 1 waters in this location?
Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to say or present on the variance?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Any questions?
We're available for any questions.
Any questions from any council members? And is there any other testimony you wanted to provide on this application outside of that?
Just one thing, Madam Chair, if I could, I was just going to, we dealt with it with the special exception, but I just wanted to note, since it's all part of the same application, there was the question about the alternatives, and I was going to specifically refer to the finding of fact number 17 from the phase 1 decision, which says, inter alia, Alfred testified that the town looked into 3 different alternative locations and or routes for the road to be relocated. Alfred testified that in his opinion the town could find no viable alternative to relocating the road and water line in the near term sufficient to avoid the need for implementing phase 1 of the proposal. And he also talked, finding of fact 18, continued talking about the other alternatives, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. That was adopted as a finding of fact in your first decision.
So that goes to the minimum necessary?
Yes, as well
Analysis.
as alternatives.
Thank you. And then I'll ask Save the Bay if you have any additional comments that you'd like to make in this part of the presentation.
Thank you. The staff report states that there's no objection to the phase 2 wall, considering the council's previous decision to allow phase 1 portion of the town's wall and the decision for the reconstruction of the existing revetment that was seaward of the phase 2 proposal. Clearly, this application is being reviewed. It is not being reviewed as a separate proposal. CRMC staff are making recommendations based on the phase 1 decision rather than evaluating this proposal as a separate proposal, or it should have been done from the beginning, evaluating the entire project. That's phases 1, 2, and actually 3 from the start. There was a phase 3. I know someone had mentioned phase 3. Initially, there was a phase 3, and that included a revetment in front of the businesses to the east. By evaluating these proposals separately, the cumulative impacts of each phase are not taken into account. In fact, we are here tonight discussing phase 2 because of the damage done to the shoreline, in part by the phase 1 sheet pile wall and the fact that it has quickly exacerbated erosion by reflecting and amplifying the weight of energy, as noted as a consequence in the staff report. This fact was clearly evident during the last 2 nor'easters that hit the coast in October. If you had a chance to go down there, you could see how much reflection was happening off that wall. The state has spent millions on developing the beach SNAP and storm tools to help the public better understand coastal risk. Yet we continue to make and approve short-term decisions when the data from storm tools completely shows us that we should not be developing or redeveloping this area. Contentious issues such as this should not be decided by the council on incomplete information. Rather, they should focus on the letter and intent of the coastal program.
Do you believe that this is a development or a redevelopment of the area?
Yeah, I mean, from the standpoint of putting a new wall up there to protect infrastructure, yes.
But it's a whole existing neighborhood and businesses.
And we get that. We do get that. We totally understand that part. This proposal is not a long-term solution for Matunic and only delays the inevitable. We urge the council and the coastal communities to develop a phased, sequential plan of action and avoid the current patchwork of temporary measures. We need to be looking at moving vulnerable infrastructure away from the coast and not supporting or approving Band-Aid approaches. That is how we ultimately become a resilient community. Thank you.